On this channel, I try to stay away from discussing politics because it is not the main focus of it. My focus is mainly on psychological issues since this is my field of specialty, and I also delve into some theological issues since I am a devoted Christian. Politics is a very sticky subject, and while it is certainly an interesting one, it is also one that is difficult to discuss because so many people get overly emotional when they're talking about it. This causes a breakdown in communication, and what was meant to be a rational and dispassionate discussion turns into shouting, sloganeers, and name-calling, sometimes even physical violence and doxing. What happened to Charlie Kirk on September 10 of this year is a glaring testament of this breakdown of communication, and that is putting it very mildly. It reveals not only how absolutely dysfunctional American politics has become, but also how hateful so many people, particularly on the left, really are. And this even was the outlet for them to display that hatred for all to see. Some might argue that this behavior doesn't represent the entirety of the left, and that we should understand that these are just fringe lunatics that are like this because that's who they are, not because they are leftists. I disagree. There has been a notable trend among leftists to become more radicalized and moving further and further to the left, and this is not by accident. This is by design. This design is mainly applied at universities and other institutions of higher education, where students are no longer taught how to think critically, but to be political activists and of the radical persuasion too. In other words, it's become a factory that mass produces political activists who push the leftist agenda everywhere its products and minions go. After all, a certain person with a certain funny-looking mustache from Germany in the 1940s said, "He alone who owns the youth gains the future." There has always been a systematic effort at indoctrinating the youth because they're less likely to question things and are far more impressionable. This is exactly what we see in our modern society, with younger generations being consistently the primary targets of those who want to indoctrinate them. It starts from elementary school all the way to college and beyond. This is evident by the fact that there are far more younger people who strongly advocate for socialism and communism in comparison to people who are older. This isn't some sort of accident. It's done intentionally by design. They are constantly bombarded with toxic ideas about conservatives, which skew their views of reality and of those who think differently from them. Instead of seeing conservatives as simply Americans who have different ideas about reality and with whom they can coexist peacefully, they see them as a threat to democracy itself. They see them as a threat to the existence of racial minorities, women, the LGBTQ community, and others who are deemed oppressed. When words are conflated with physical violence, it is no wonder that so many leftists will resort to violence whenever they hear something they even slightly disagree with. Instead of discussing the ideas and measuring how truthful and accurate they are via a civil discussion, they refuse to compromise and would rather just silence any dissent. We are currently moving more and more towards this stage, and many people call this cancel culture. We want those, like Charlie, to be silent, to soothe our fragile egos, rather than stretching ourselves in order to understand a different perspective and practice the empathy that we, but especially leftists, love to talk about so much. We need to put into practice what we preach, not just merely preach it. The assassination of Charlie Kirk will be a lesson for all of us, or I hope it will be. Whenever you feel angry about someone's views, ask yourself, what exactly am I angry about? Is my anger disproportionate to the kind of speech I'm listening to? Am I exaggerating, or is my anger justified? If you're not sure of the answers to these questions, ask someone who is wiser than you instead of letting your emotions completely possess you. In today's day and age, it is oftentimes leftists who need to internalize this message more than people on the right. Though, of course, people on the right aren't completely innocent either. With the rise of such polarizing figures such as Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, two examples of people who used to be reasonable but which have shifted sharply to the right and entertain wild and unhinged conspiracy theories. People on the right have to grapple with the questions I mentioned as well. We can no longer be complacent just because the other guys do it more than us. Resorting to this mentality is a form of intellectual laziness and cowardice. And if we want to be an example to others, we must be proactive about bringing peace instead of being passive and hoping that peace will just magically appear out of thin air. As the famous quote says, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." Let's not be those people in our society today. So that's it for this video. If you like this content, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share to get notified about more videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.